Hello, everyone. Welcome back to That Music Junkie. I am your host, Nick Rosen, and I am joined today by Dana Athens from the band Jane Lee Hooker. Dana, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing well, thank you. And yourself?
Doing pretty good, trying to stay warm.
Yeah, yeah, you're telling me. Had to walk my dog in a blizzard this morning.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm down here in Kentucky, and yeah, ice storm hit pretty hard. There's a few inches of snow outside. My car is partially buried.
Oh no, 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 no. This is where I wish for warmer weather or living in California, but a lot of places even can't escape it, no matter where you are, besides, all the way out there. But I was a New Yorker, I'm used to it. It's a regular feeling of remorse for living here, actually.
Fair enough. See, I'm from Southern California originally, so yeah, I'm not used to this kind of weather.
You never actually get used to it, especially if you don't prefer it. You don't get used to it.
So, Jane Lee Hooker is not a solo act. Jane Lee Hooker is, in fact, the name of a five-piece band, of which you are the lead
Correct.
singer. Why don't you tell
Yes.
my viewers, listeners, a little bit about you guys?
Well, we are based in New York City, Brooklyn specifically, at this point, and we've been together almost coming on 8 years. And I don't know what to say. It's like a dream come true to be in this band. It really is something very special. We started more blues based, but we have turned into mostly originals. And we just love writing together. They're my best friends and my family at this point, and it's the biggest honor in the world to sing for this band. It really is. I don't know what else to
That's awesome. Um,
say.
your guys' first album came out back in 2017, correct?
Something like that. Sometime. I think it was more like 15 or 16, because we had originally, yeah, it came out on Roof
Okay.
after we self-released it ourselves, which is pretty cool. It was picked up by Roof Records, and we were signed to them. Uh, yeah, almost 2007. I'm bad with the dates. So I'm very sorry. And because Spiritus came out not that long. Spiritus came around. Our second album came out around 2017, I thought. But I don't know the years anymore at this point. 2020 really messed up my brain and my chronological order of things.
To be fair, 2020 kind of did that to everybody.
Yeah, for sure. I keep on going last year. I mean, no, 3 years ago. I can't even count it anymore. So at least we're all in it together, that
True.
nine
It's like
swirl.
kind of hard to believe that we're already approaching a year of this madness.
Insanity, exactly.
So normally I'd ask, hey, how have you been keeping busy with, quarantine and all that stuff? But I think I already know the answer to that because at the end of last month, you guys dropped a new single entitled Jericho.
Yeah. So we were already had that in the works pre-quarantine. So we're lucky that things got postponed because it looked like we were doing more than we actually were because we were being safe and not seeing each other for months. Luckily, we had my backyard to what's it called? Social distance, rehearse and write stuff. So we weren't in a physical room together for months and months and months. And when that would happen, we would all make sure we were all tested prior to being together because, I take care of my older relatives and people have children and older, we just really did as much as we could to be very, very safe. But luckily, we had things already in the works. So we were very blessed to have that. Uh, I had family members say, "How did you make that happen?" It's like, well, it's a secret. It didn't just happen, that stuff. But that's what we're learning as a band anyway to get things ready for the next time. Once a single's done or an album, what are you doing? You're on to the next one. That's
Exactly.
that's the way to do it.
Sure. Yeah, it's a very like kind of old school approach to things. I believe it was Judas Priest. They would record their album and like while they were touring, they'd work on their new music and everything like that. So
Exactly. Precisely. That's what we've done actually these last couple records. And we've already, Jericho, as you mentioned, our new single, we had been performing that all over Europe for the last year before 2020. So we were, what is it called? It's like testing, beta testing
yeah,
with crowds. And also, you really develop this, like what we were performing live is vastly different from what we put out. Obviously, it was better
sure.
because you got to really see what's working and,
Yeah, you had that
make it
opportunity
really
to really refine it and hone in your focus on it, which is actually pretty
exactly.
neat. Not a lot of bands take that approach, and I think that's really
No, they don't want to share the unfinished baby. But as in music and in Jane Lee Hooker, it's always an unfinished baby because none of our live shows are ever the same. Yeah, we have our records, but that we try to do record as live as possible as
sure.
well to really get that feeling of what it's like to be in the room with us, which is obviously different, but we do our best to make it as similar as possible.
Sure. I mean, I've talked to bands, that are only like a two-piece bit. So, they have and they have their own little like kind of personal recording studio. So that makes it a little bit easier on them. But like a whole five-piece band is a completely different story. You can't necessarily,
It's another animal.
yeah, you can't necessarily, Zoom, rehearse via Zoom or anything like that.
At the beginning, we tried and it was terrible. Oh my gosh. We couldn't even sing happy birthday like recently, even though we're all better at Zoom. It was the worst happy birthday I've ever heard in my life. And we're like, we're musicians. Don't please believe us, manager. It was Greg. We sent a birthday. It was so bad. But because the delay and all that, I don't know how
Yeah,
to
the
master
audio
music even
interference and
still.
yep. Oh, believe me, I know.
So hard. So hard.
So let's talk about Jericho a little bit more. What's the
Okay.
kind of inspiration behind it?
Excuse me.
Always.
Well, I wrote it a couple years ago, actually, on acoustic guitar, and I grew up in church, so I know all these Bible stories, and besides that, I like to take these stories and make it something kind of open. This is I don't know. This song was so strange because I send things to the band all the time, and I never know if they're gonna love it or whatever. And sometimes it just gets lost in the shuffle of an email or sending them something. And it was a while after I wrote it that we revisited it. And yeah, it's about the Battle of Jericho, inspired by the biblical story,
Mhm.
but it wound up being so timely for what we're going through in terms of raising your voices to defend, uh, nonviolent protests is the other thing. It wasn't a violent thing. The walls falling down, destructive, is quite violent, but not the action that made those walls fall down.
Right.
So it really was my way of saying, hey, let's yeah, be yourself, find your people, and make that noise to change things for the better. That was my way of doing that, and it kind of just flowed out, and then the band took it and it became this rock song. So that it's just so great to watch it go from, my living room playing crappy guitar to the band,
Sure.
full
Yeah, I
full
mean,
volume.
when I first heard it, after the song ended, I kind of sat there for a second, like, oh, pretty fitting for what's going on right now. So I guess the whole delay actually like really worked in your guys' favor for that.
Yeah, it was actually originally supposed to be released in November or some other time, where it was almost like inappropriate for it to come out. We needed that to stand, but like what was happening in the world to stand on its own. We didn't need a let me promote my single thing, So it came out at an appropriate time, right after the inauguration, and it was just quite fitting, all of it.
Yeah, like I said, it's on the nose, but in a good way. Like uh,
Thank you. I
it's not.
was nervous about that.
Well, I mean, it proved out to, or it worked out well. So, job well done.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
You can't plan everything, but even the best laid plans, right? They say.
Oh, believe me, if 2020 taught us anything, that's a very, very true statement.
Yeah, yeah, for certain.
So the song has been, you guys, you said you've been working on it for a while. It's done. It's solidified. You guys got it down. Do we have any plans for an album this year?
Yeah, we have a record coming out in the middle of the year, I think. Our single will come before it, and then shortly after, the rest of it will be released. Another single off this EP or whatever it's called, record.
So you
It's
guys doing
going to
two
be
singles?
music.
Yeah. You guys are just doing the two singles and the album drop?
Yeah, a single with another video,
Hmm.
which it's
Okay.
turning out to be super cool. Uh, and and then an incredible set of songs that just go with it. I'm so proud of it.
Awesome.
Uh, and it's really going to be a great time to see all this come to fruition because we haven't released as soon as we wanted to after Spiritus, and then obviously whatever with the world.
Sure.
So it's great that it's finally coming out. Well, and we're already working on the next one after that too, mind you.
There you
You
go.
know, it's just what happens. We wrote a song that we were all in love with while recording Jericho and all this stuff. We're like, can we add it? We're like, no, we can't. We're professionalizing and honing those ones. Let's do the same and give all of that, do the due diligence to give it its fair shot, you know.
Sure. Plus, you don't want to overwhelm the producer, just like, no, stop.
We don't need to add more songs. Like let's really make each one come to life as it's supposed to be, you know.
Right. Yeah.
It's so hard. You want to rush and be impatient just to have it done, but in the long run, you don't want to ever listen back and be like, we should have waited at least another week or month. You
Yeah.
know.
I think it's funny that a lot of bands nowadays, ones that I've talked to and other ones that have albums coming out soon, used to be the approach that you're doing. One, two, maybe three singles at most before the album drops. There's bands nowadays that are releasing like half their album before it even comes out, which on the one hand is like, as a music fan, it's cool because then I get, kind of a sneak peek. But on the other hand, it's like I don't really have much to look forward to now that I've already heard half of it.
Well, that's the game here at this point. I'm like, let's just release it all. I was like that, but we thank God we have a great manager who really curated a plan for us, you know, to release it in bits, but also you don't want to give, you know, at the start he was like, maybe we'll do three singles off of it, but it wound up just being the two. And for me, I'm like, I don't want to give away as much. Exactly. Not
Yeah,
that I'm so precious with it, but I'm still like, I wish I had liner notes and can, you know, sit cross-legged listening and reading from beginning to end of the album. I love that. I love the the whole thing and how it kind of weaves together.
I'm the same way. I
That's
mean, I've got my record player. I've got my newer and older records, and I love pulling out, especially the older ones that
this
have the
is
liner notes.
yeah. I always have my record and my
There it
record
is.
player, and
It is.
it's essential for me. I'm pretty old fashioned and loyal in that way.
Yeah. I think, and I get asked about it by not necessarily like my readers or anything like that, but just like my friends and stuff like that. They're like, "Oh, why do you bother with records?" I even have cassettes, and I'll tell them, because like, "Oh, why do you bother with it?" There's Spotify, there's Apple Music, there's Pandora, there's all that stuff. And I said, "Well, artists put a lot of effort into records." And sure, singles are great and everything like that, especially when you're in the car. You don't always necessarily have the time if you're running up to Walmart to, just listen to a whole album. But when you do have that time, especially nowadays, to sit down, put a record in, and just experience the album as it's supposed to be listened to, it's a whole new experience for you.
Yeah, I totally agree. And again, I love the flow. Even if songs are completely different, if I when I become obsessed with things. Like I'll hear the next intro immediately at the end of the next song. I'll be like, "Oh, this song's coming on. I'm so ready." And you get to really experience. They do artists do things on purpose. You put time and effort. Even a record is mastered differently than a whatever MP3 or blah blah blah. So I mean, someone put the work in, and I'm I love seeing, as an artist, I love seeing the way they decided to make things flow and all that kind of stuff.
Sure, absolutely. Um, yeah, I can really agree more. That's the way it should be, I think.
Yeah.
Spotify and Apple Music is great and all. Don't get me wrong. I'm a subscriber to Apple Music now
Yeah.
myself. But yeah, I don't know. There's just something about the records. It's just so much better.
So it really is. Also, yeah, I don't even know what to say because it's really true. This last year especially, a couple of years in general, I've been trying to get more involved in social or listening to Spotify or try listening to new things. But when it comes down to it, I do like what I like, and I am a bit of a purist with what I like, and that's okay. So I've been playing a little bit of both sides. It's a balance. I'm trying to be relevant also and be in the loop, but there's something to say for the way things once were. So
Yeah,
I like a little of both.
yeah, absolutely. I've looked at your guys's like your repertoire, and Greg sent me. Greg is their manager, by the way. Greg sent
Hmm.
me some info to kind of look over. You guys have a pretty impressive past. You've according to that info you sent me, you guys have toured with Motorhead and the Helicopters and stuff like that.
So that in our bio, that's the collective.
Oh, okay.
That's the collective, not Jane Lee Hooker. Some of it is Jane Lee Hooker in those, but that was like the culmination of all of our years of experience.
Gotcha.
And
Well, I
descriptive.
mean, hey, it's still impressive. It's not like you guys.
Still awesome. It's still great. And it's
Yeah,
experience. It's crazy to share the stage with people that you really, really look up to and
right.
respect as an artist.
And I think that kind of shines through in your all's music from what I've listened to, just a good amount of it. Um, you have that inspiration from some of those bands as well as some of the classics. I mean, you guys started out as a blues rock band, so you obviously have those tones and those feelings and those settings in there. But what I was really impressed by is that I've played in blues rock bands. I'm a drummer. I play bass and all that stuff too. So like I kind of know, where I grew up, there wasn't a lot of drummers and bass players. There's guitarists and singers, and like that's it. So, um,
You got the most equipment, that's why.
uh, so when I got into playing with other people and stuff like that, the vast majority, again, where I grew up, a lot of people playing blues. It was either they played blues or they played like screaming metalcore, and there was
Right,
like
right.
no music. So I bring all that up because having played in blues bands and blues rock bands, it all kind of starts meshing together after a while because they start playing the same songs and they start doing the same vibes and everything like that. And what I really admire and appreciate about Jane Lee Hooker is that you guys have that foundation of blues rock and all that stuff, but you guys have actually put your own twist on it and you've made it unique and you made it your own. Because I can put on blues rock albums from anybody, with the exception of Stevie Ray Vaughan because he's next level. But you put on blues rock albums, and after a while, like I said, they all start sounding the same, meshing together. But you put on Jane Lee Hooker, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. This is something new. I like this. Um,
Uh, yeah. I love that. Thank you. I
you're
really appreciate that. That's the hardest thing about blues, even, yeah, because, a lot of these songs, especially blues songs, they're just that same progression too, with different lyrics or maybe a little twist here and there. And that is the absolute joy of being in Jane Lee Hooker saying, all right, let's mess this up right here and make it our own, or pay homage to this. Like, well, it's often when we get into that part, creative part, we just play this song until something comes to us, to be honest. And we just let it happen. It winds up being just like a jam session until then we start figuring out where, oh, we're hearing something cool here. And when I joined the band, it's this is typical Dana. I join bands and know nothing about the music really that I'm joining, and I have to learn it. And there's a show in 2 weeks. This is typical, something that I've done in my life. But with this band, it came so effortless. Like when I basically had my audition years ago, I walked in the room not knowing anyone. It was literally like as if I'd known these people forever. And when I opened my mouth to sing this first song, it was like, oh, this is right. And even my mommy, I meant to say mom, but it came out mommy. Um,
Yeah.
and my mom, opera singer, church lady, when she really saw me with the band, she was like, Dana, this is your band. So I got approval from that something's happening here. We can't really put our finger on it. And though we started as a blues band, like, the Rolling Stones, and that's all based, steeped in blues.
Mhm.
Rock and roll essentially is,
True.
in general. So allowing it to, you don't get stuck in the box of blues, rock, that. You really have to just let the music speak for itself, and, allow your musicianship and knowledge to shine through, especially having shared the stage with greats and having that opportunity. You want to bring like the absolute at your absolute best and do something cool and fresh. Otherwise, you're just playing the same progressions over and over. That's so boring. So
Yeah, I
that
mean,
was long-winded.
no, it's hey, this is an interview podcast. You're supposed to talk. It's about you, right?
I could talk too much, so stop me.
No, but I like what you said there because exactly, rock and roll got its start based off of blues.
Mhm.
Rollins, I've watched, I can't even tell you how many music documentaries and biographies that I've read and I've watched where they're all those bands that, those rock and roll legends that we perceive, like the Rolling Stones, massively inspired by blues. Keith Richards is a huge fan of Buddy Guy, and they're actually friends now, which I think is rad. The Rolling Stones in
It's
general were,
amazing.
inspired by like Howlin' Wolf, Buddy Guy, John Lee Hooker, a little on the nose there for your guys' band name,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So I feel like what you guys are doing is kind of the more pure sense of traditional rock and roll because you have your harder edge, you guys have the two guitarists and everything like that. You have your driving beats, but you also have those roots that you're staying true to. I think that's awesome.
Uh, Thank you. Yeah, I realized, having grown up in singing gospel and falling in love with, Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald, that also, I realize now I'm listening to us talk about my band, and we do, that soul aspect too allows us to just uh, hone right in, getting to do things like Rains, beginning like that, learning these amazing songs and then making them our own, just set us up for creating our own original songs that have these influences, but it's also fresh.
Right, yeah. And kind of like what you touched on earlier, your mom said like, hey, this is your band and you guys are all like the friends and everything like that. I've watched some of the footage of you guys on YouTube, just playing some of your live performances and some of your music videos. And yeah, you can tell you guys really mesh together very well. You're a very charismatic front woman, which is awesome. I hate going to see bands where, the lead singer, they're like shoegazing, but it's not shoegaze music. And you're like, cool, all right.
Right, right, right.
You're up there, you're
uh
moving around, your guitarists are moving around, your bass player's moving around. drummers doing work, of course, and it's really cool to see because it's not forced. Because on, like I said, on one hand, you have the bands that are just kind of there. The only band that I've seen that kind of doesn't move around a whole lot, but it works, is Interpol. I might be a little biased there because I love Interpol. Oh, hey, this New York City home, locals for you guys. But it works for them. But on the other hand, I've seen bands perform live where they try to be up and moving and everything like that, but it doesn't work because you could tell they're thinking about it too much.
Or it's choreographed a
or,
little bit
or oh my
too.
god,
Yeah.
that. Yeah, this isn't the 80s. This isn't Poison. We don't need to
Yeah.
see choreographed. You know,
Right. No.
it's like that.
Yeah. it- that's the most fun part about being in this band because I'm outspoken, but you get up there, I'm still nervous sometimes, and even though I'm nervous, I still go through it. I don't know what to say very often, so there feels like mm, hours of silence between songs at times. But one thing we've always said is when in doubt, when you feel those nerves as a band, screw everyone else in the audience. Yeah, I'm glad you're here, but this party is for us. You're welcome to join us. But I need to go like this sometimes and just like stare at my band and get in that zone, especially during strange shows where maybe the audience isn't there or it's a weird, I don't know, blues supper club with mostly a geriatric audience, and you're fork and kniving their rubber chicken, and you still want to give them that show. See, the show is not for everybody. In Jane Lee Hooker, the show is for us,
There you
and
go.
you're welcome to join us, and you're welcome to join us, to come on this fun ride.
Not a bad approach to have. I know there's bands that, of course, they just face the audience the whole time. Going back to Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger's thing is always, look out and up. But there's other bands where it works if they're looking at each other because, I mean, not necessarily backs to the audience the whole time. You can do
Right.
that every now and then, but you can't perform a whole set that way.
No.
But you can tell, especially like when a band's, you know, connecting with each other on stage, it just amplifies the performance and just makes it that much better. White Stripes comes to mind. Jack and Meg always were looking at each other, and it worked. So I mean, those guys are legends. Matt and Kim is another duet. They look at each other. They in fact, when they're playing, they're actually like facing each other the whole time.
Right.
They just set up. And yeah, I think it builds off of that, and then you have that energy going, and then the audience gets kind of wrapped into that, and it's great. So yeah, of course, you got to do it. The party's, you guys are the party, right?
Ideally, right? And it's always, I said this earlier, it's always a different show, and I know that my band's not concerned with what the audience is thinking. My band is concerned, like T-Bone and High Top, they're in their zone. They're in their zone. High Top does her thing. T-Bone, they're very naturally doing their own thing, not choreographed on purpose. Me, I'm the one that's slightly more choreographed, only in that I'm a dancer, so I'm aware of where everyone is. So sometimes, like, all right, we need something over here, I'm gonna go over here, and so it's not choreographed, but it's improvised, moving around to engage, and then at time, yes, engaging the audience in a different location. You don't want to leave them out over there if you're over here a lot. So I do my best to do that when I am in the moment. I can't do it forced though. If I feel funky, I can't do it. So it has to be from an honest place.
Absolutely. And like I said, I've watched the videos. It shows. So bravo.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So wrapping up, we've got new single came out, Jericho, end of last month, January. We have an album that is coming out mid this year, you said?
I think I'm so bad with dates. I think it's May. I think it's
Okay.
May that
Oh,
is coming out.
cool.
May or June. May, June-ish. Yeah.
May
Something like
20th,
that.
summertime-ish, no blizzards-ish.
I'm so sorry I don't actually know the dates.
Oh, it's
But
fine.
it's coming.
So keep an eye out. So for my audience, my listeners, my readers, my viewers, if you want to keep in touch and you want to keep, you know, track of when this album's coming out, where can they find Jane Lee Hooker?
Well, of course, janeleehooker.com. And we are on every social media platform, Instagram at Jane Lee Hooker, Facebook, all of that. And now apparently we're on TikTok, which I'm still learning how to do that, but it's happened. So yeah, at Jane Lee Hooker all across the board. You can join our Jane Lee Hooker newsletter also, which we have been really doing regularly, and we've been posting contests. We just posted a new one. If you want to be involved in the contest, you just put your mailing list in and you can enter. And we're trying to be really involved a little bit more uh, as we go along. We're all getting the hang of all of this back in action stuff.
I got you. There you go. And I'll be posting all those links down in the description of this episode below,
Great, thank
of
you.
course. Yeah, TikTok. That's funny. So I'm friends with Tom Kunzman, who I've actually interviewed before. He's the lead singer of a band called 18th and Addison, as well as a band called Black Mansions. 18th and Addison has their TikTok, and they post funny things, like they did kind of a riff on the. Have you seen that video of the guy riding the longboard drinking the cranberry juice to
No.
okay, so there's this video, there's this guy, he's riding a longboard, he's drinking like ocean spray cranberry juice, and the song Dreams by Fleetwood Mac is playing. And it's like a simple video, it's kind of cool, but it's like this huge thing now. So they kind of did a riff on that, and then they ended up doing a cover of that song too, which you can see on their TikTok. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'll get a TikTok, because I loved Vine back in the day. Oh my God, back in the day. So I have it, and I have not posted anything because I'm like, I don't know how to do this.
uh, Me too. I was like, I'm gonna get a Dana Athens TikTok, and then immediately I was like, I don't know what's happening here. So I just watch like funny kids and
There you
you
go.
know.
I have.
I'll get it eventually. You got to curate it, or I have to ask like a 7-year-old how to actually do it. It turns out.
That's my son. I'm like, hey son, how do I use this TikTok? I don't understand. The old man doesn't understand technology.
And they're like transition and ha da da, and I'm like,
Oh
I
yeah,
thought I
he
was
gets
good
my
at
old
this.
iPad and he just does stuff on it, and I'm like, how did you do that? I'm only 32. Come on.
Yeah. It's never ending change and progression. Like this is a constant thing. So I realized I can't just complain to it about it, piss and moan. I gotta lean in a little bit at some point.
As fun as it is to sit on your porch and shake your fist at the kids, you have to.
Right. Oh, I've become that like that woman, like that SNL Sherry O'Terry, Mrs. Vecchio. Like it's on my property. It's mine now.
It's on mine. It's my property.
Yeah, I'm working on that. I'm too young for that behavior.
I I feel that. Believe me, I do. Well, Dana, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. Again, this is Dana Athens. Jane Lee Hooker is the band. Jericho is the new song. Check them out on
Yeah.
Spotify, on Apple, janeleehooker.com, and all their social links will be posted in the description below. So thanks, and we'll talk to you later.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much for watching that video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to like and subscribe. And for more content, head on over to thatmusicjunkie.com. Did you know I have a Patreon? It would really help me out if you could check it out. I also have merch available over on Teespring. Links in the description below. See you guys in the next video.